This is Eric the World Walker, and you are watching Loudmouth Presents Off the Top Rope.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages and denominations, we have got a very special guest, fresh from his visit to the African continent, walking with elephants, the man, the legend, Eric the World Walker. Eric, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. How was your experience in Africa, in South Africa?
It definitely has ranked. It definitely ranks up there with some of my favorite excursions. Probably top three as of right now.
Awesome, awesome. Now, just explain to the people. I mean, obviously we kept people involved in terms of how you travel to get to South Africa, but describe it to us, because I don't think a lot of people understand what it took to get from where you were to South Africa. So explain that trip for us.
So when I spoke to Anansi about coming down, it was I was just coming off my contracting for my job, and that was on the West Coast near California. And when he said, "Oh, could you get here for the weekend of shows?" and I said, "Give me about 10 minutes to just take a look and see if it was possible."
Sure.
Because, coming from the US to South Africa, it's anywhere from, if you're lucky, 16 hours at a minimum.
Yeah.
Even from the East Coast.
Yeah.
So when I figured it out, it is possible, I would get there pretty much the morning of the show, the first show, but I could do it. Mm-hmm. What ended up happening was when I left the West Coast, I got stuck in the Denver area, which is in the central part of the country. And by the time I got home, grabbed my passport and drove to the other airport, it was already too late.
Right.
So I spent about at least 5 hours that night just calling Delta, just trying to see if they could help fix it, because it wasn't their fault. Right. It was the other airline that I was on. So after a while, we finally came to a decent solution, but I would end up missing that first outdoor show on the first.
Yeah.
So I literally had to drive an hour from where I was in Atlanta, go back to Atlanta airport, and then fly the 16 hours straight to Johannesburg.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. And you being 6'3", okay, not it's not so much the weight thing, but it's the height thing. Man, I don't know. I've flown to London before, one way, and that killed me. I don't know how 16 hours in the plane was for you.
You know what? So I had left my job at about Thursday afternoon. Mm-hmm. I had not, when you met me, I had not, like, well, I take that back. I did sleep at my parents' house, but I hadn't had like a decent night of sleep for about 3 days when you saw me. Wow. Like I hadn't slept at all for at least 2 days.
Right.
So on that flight, as soon as we took off from Johannesburg, from Atlanta, I was knocked out.
Right.
Like I think I woke up maybe 2 hours before we landed.
Wow.
So I slept like 12, 14 hours on that flight. So it wasn't as bad.
Okay. So let's talk about the experience, because South Africa and Africa, man, it's not only a different continent, but it seems like a different world. What was your experience landing here, and how you found South Africa and Johannesburg in particular, man? Because out of all the places in South Africa, Johannesburg is a separate entity unto itself. So how did you find Joburg?
What do you mean?
I mean, in terms of getting around, were the people pleasant? That type of thing. Even before the wrestling, I mean, how were the people towards you?
Oh, no. Whenever I'm going into a new country, I try and always go in with excuse me, try going with the best mindset. No, when I landed in the airport, everyone was cordial, everyone was nice. The folks in my hotel were wonderful. Even when I went out to go eat places, I never encountered anything that could be misconstrued as bad.
All right, all right. So let's talk about your professional wrestling career. What was the first match that you ever watched that you looked at it and say, "Yo, this has got me"?
So there's two parts to this. One distinct memory. I think I was maybe 4, 5, 6 years old. One of my best friends was over, and I remember clicking through, and I think it was like old school WCW, and I was like, "Oh, wrestling." And he was like, "Oh, my parents let me watch wrestling," and then I turned it off and didn't kind of mess with it after that point.
Sure.
But I remember I was staying with a family friend when my parents were out, and they had one of the pay-per-views, and I went back and found the match. I believe it was Kane, X-Pac in the steel cage.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact match, but I distinctly remember Kane. I distinctly remember X-Pac and Chyna, and from that particular match onward, I just watched and enjoyed wrestling.
Right. Right. Okay.
So
And then
that's what got me hooked.
sure,
if you
sure.
will.
And then where did you train, and how long did it take you from the moment you walked into the gym to having your first match?
So I trained in Lafayette, Indiana. It was a middle of December, basically. It was essentially a garage
Sure.
in the middle of winter, and I started February of 2008.
Okay.
I had my first match that following summer in August of 2008. Now, was I ready? Not by a long shot, but up until it's you're never quite ready. There was a lot of stuff that, looking back on it, I could have done a lot better. Part of that's training, like it's not one particular thing, but no, I still remember my first match rather vividly. I actually have the DVD of it somewhere in my parents' house.
Okay. Do you know that you and I share something in common besides our passion for professional wrestling? I started my training with Anansi in February 2008. There's a parallel there. It's like looking into a mirror. So
Well,
when you look at professional wrestling now, and of course, over the progression of your career and things like that, what is the one thing about professional wrestling at the moment that you absolutely love?
I guess it's just that you know how it, like I said, I can't, sorry. When you think about just with everything that's just going on in the world and professional wrestling, even after all these years, is something that people can enjoy.
Right.
That even after all these years, with all the streaming services and everything vying for people's attention, that professional wrestling is a thing that people still pay for, go to see and enjoy and talk about. The fact that that's still going on even now is one of the big things to me.
Excellent.
I don't think some people appreciate the fact that pro wrestling, despite the genie coming out of the bottle about it being staged and everything else, that it didn't lose its niche. Its
Right.
niche. It's still a
Okay.
thing. And
Excellent.
it's probably going as strong, especially on the independents, that it's ever been in years.
Right. Right. And there's so much variety about what you can watch, from big shows, from the smaller shows, outdoor shows, indoor shows, death matches, lucha libre. Man, there's so much of it out there. What is the one thing? Now we talked about what you like about professional wrestling. What don't you like about professional wrestling? What's your pet peeve? about pro wrestling?
There's a very weird structure to getting into professional wrestling and progressing and everything. And just from my experience, not everybody has the benefit of being trained like Booker T. His school here in the U.S. I'm pretty sure you heard me talking about it with Alex. Yeah. That his school is probably turning out the most comprehensive. I use the term complete wrestling education. Mm-hmm. When you go to his school, you are going to get a complete wrestling education. So from the actual wrestling to actually being taught how to be a star and do good business, you're going to get that from his school. Whereas everyone, for whether it's location, financial, whatever the case, not everybody gets that same education.
Yeah.
And then, someone graduates from a local dojo like I did, and there's gaps in my knowledge that I largely only got from traveling and doing what I've been doing. And even then, it's only when someone really understood not only understood it, but experienced it and was able to teach it, that in some cases, that I was even able to get a topic or a concept.
Yeah.
And because like there's so many people running around the business like a chicken with their head cut off, and they're sort of being admonished and talked down to, when sometimes the people who are talking down don't even know what they're talking about. So that whole thing, just as I've gotten older and as I've become a mentor myself, these are the things I've seen.
Right.
So that if I had to have a pet peeve, it's just the structure is chaos.
Right.
There's no straightforward, like there's a universal way, like, hey, be in good shape, know how to do the basics very well. But everything else after that is so subjective, and then some people talk like it's objective.
Yeah, I get
that
you.
Makes any sense.
It does. So you here in South Africa, unfortunately you missed the first show. Then you happen to have got a booking with another promotion, HWA, on the Sunday. So did you have time on the Saturday to kind of decompress and kind of get your head around the fact that now another bucket list item has been ticked off by you wrestling in South Africa? Did it give you that time to mentally prepare yourself for the next day?
Just being able to sleep in a comfortable bed, and that show actually didn't happen.
Okay.
Once I confirmed the circus show was happening, I kind of just sat and took stock. I'm like, okay, while I'm here, let me go. I've got this time. Let me go do the thing that I wanted to go do, which was walking, with the elephants and all that. And then, like while we were there, it kind of just, once the crowd started getting into it, and we were all backstage just getting ready, it kind of then set in, like, this thing I've been trying to do for the past 5 years is finally here. So, so I guess sometimes it doesn't really set in until right before I go out there, and then sometimes in the heat of the moment when I'm just waiting there.
Right. And then, of course, we kind of went full circle with the circus show, with the original way that professional wrestling got out there was, of course, with the carnivals and the big tops and things like that. Did that irony like not escape you?
It did not. Crazy. No. I don't know if you saw the post I was making for the folks back home. I'm just how fitting is it that this particular moment has come full circle, where wrestling started in the carnivals, that I'm actually getting the opportunity to do it in this setting. So no, it wasn't lost on me.
All right. And then, of course, let's talk about the crowd, because you mentioned the crowd many times. Just the way they interacted and just the way they were and things like that. You mentioned this, that the passion that the crowd has is not something you often see in the States.
So when you watch like the old school territories, you there's a different energy. I'm not.
Mm.
It still happens in the States, but it wasn't as widespread as it used to be. You watch the old territories, your Georgia championship, your Mid Atlantic, and the people are they're just excited. There's
Yeah,
just
man.
an there's just an energy there that's infectious. And I was just at a show this past weekend, and it's a good old Southern crowd who just loves wrestling, and it's a different feeling being out there
Mm-hmm.
than what you encounter sometimes, where you're literally having to try and pull it from the people who don't want to give it to you. And
Sure.
it just creates a whole different feeling in the ring and in the match and in the show. But when they're like when they want it, you just want to go out there and give it your best.
Yeah.
And it's like you're like they're not having to pull it out of you. You don't have to pull it out of them. It's this equal exchange that you just don't a genuine, not just, polite clap. Oh, that was a nice move. That was a nice match. I mean, like, no, we are here. We're excited. We're here to have fun. We're here to enjoy this. It's something that you don't see very often. And if whenever I encounter it, I always note it
Yeah. Yeah.
because
No,
that's why, a lot of us got into it. It's
yeah. I must admit though, the Tuesday at work, and even the Wednesday after it was kind of hard to concentrate on work. The next day, I mean, my ears were just ringing. I could still hear the crowd and feel the energy. To get to sleep on Monday night was nearly impossible. Even the Tuesday, I wasn't groggy from the lack of sleep. I was energized, man. I just couldn't focus because just the noise in the crowd and everything like that was still in my ears. But I want to ask you a question. Going back to what you mentioned with pulling the energy out of the crowd and things like that. Do you, in your opinion, think that that art of professional wrestling is kind of lost? The guys that can go out there first, cut a good promo, get that first match going, not a whole lot of flash, but just get the crowd to where a level where the next match is able to pull more and more energy, and you find your energy of your crowd scaling up like that instead of being a bit stuttery where the first match is good and then the second match pulls it down a little bit, and it tends to be more wavy instead of on an upward trajectory. And when you end your event, you're ending it on a super high. Is that something, in your opinion, that is kind of lost? Some guys don't know how to do it.
yes. And here's the thing: in the US and places I've been in the world, certain crowds expect certain things.
Yeah.
And and the ability to discern, okay, hey, you guys don't need to go out and do 50 million things to get this crowd hot. You just need to interact with them and give them something to get excited about. Again, going back to this past weekend, a show called Action here in Georgia, bunch of young upstarts. Their manager got the crowd going into it, and they did all the cool stuff. They had the energy, and the crowd was into it.
Yeah.
That same match, I don't. It certainly wasn't it was not a bad match. It's just like I've seen cases where they'll just go out there and do all the stuff, and the crowd's like, oh, okay. But because when they came out and when they did their introductions, they reached out and engaged the fans because, hey guys, here we go. This is what we're about to do. There's a certain, it's just like, again, the small things.
Yeah.
Like, hey, get the crowd into it. Like, some guys hate being like, there was a thing for a while where guys hated being the first match. I'm like, no, I love being the first match because I'm setting the tone for the show, right? Like, you could have the main event, But to say that, okay, hey, I got the crowd hot, y'all can follow that. To me, is a mark of a true professional. When you
Right.
can go out there in that first match and you can set, because like I said, it sets a tone for the rest of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't deliver in that, that's a reflection on you, not necessarily the crowd or whatever.
Sure, sure.
So it's an art. It's an art to doing that. That's
Right.
not necessarily taught. Again, like I said before, not taught completely. Not everybody grasps what that means.
Yeah, yeah. Now, just a question on that. Now, I got my start as an announcer in professional wrestling, and a commentator, which allowed me to read the crowd. What responses get what things get what responses and things like that. Do you think, as a wrestler starting out, a rookie, maybe within your first few months and things like that, not to be a go out there and be a pure pro wrestler, maybe be a referee for one or two shows, or a commentator for one or two shows, and let the youngsters be able to start reading a crowd before they actually start getting into ring? Or do you think some guys are just naturally gifted? You just say, hey, listen, there's the ring, go and do your business.
To me, it's a spectrum. It's being able to recognize where someone's strengths and weaknesses lie is the key to figuring out how to get them where they need to be.
Right.
Like me, I've always been a fair better talker than I am. I'm still athletic, but I've never been like a pure technical guy.
Sure.
And if I had learned to be a better character early on, or a better personality,
Mm-hmm.
then that I could have, the time frame in which I got better could have been shortened.
Sure.
One of my last trainer, he had a habit of putting guys under masks, so that way they could go out and get a feel for the crowd. They can
Right.
screw up, they can mess up, make mistakes, but it doesn't hurt them in the long run.
Sure.
So
Sure.
when they actually go out there and they're in front of the crowd and they're nervous and they don't know what to do, because that I kind of got thrown out there like, okay, here you go. You're going out there with someone experienced,
Yeah. Yeah.
but okay, here's your shot. And I was basically running on. I can't even quite think of the right word for it. Like, I had the gimmick, I had the ideas, but nowhere near the understanding of how to make it live for the
Yeah.
crowd and make it really live for myself like I do now.
Right.
And so it's I say the mark of a good trainer, the mark of a good mentor is being able to recognize where your guys are, what they like. Because it's like you said, I've met guys who are complete prodigies to where, like, you send them out there in their first match and they're already main event stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen guys who, it's like you're in a precarious balance to where you can fall off or you can ascend, but we need to guide you in the best way possible. Okay, here are your strengths, here are your weaknesses. Let's accentuate your strengths, hide and work on your weaknesses to get you better. And then there's just the people who need like a whole lot of work.
Right. Right.
And but it's recognizing where that person is
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
I
being
get you.
able to know being able to know what to do to get them to where they need to be.
Right.
Get them to where they need to be.
Right. Okay. Let's talk. Let's talk guilty pleasures in professional wrestling. What is the one match that you can watch over and over and over again, just even if you put it on as background noise or something like that? It's always the one match that you absolutely enjoy. And if people come over to your house, they go, "Oh, gee, not this thing again." What is that match for you?
You know what? I honestly can't say I have a particular one. Um, there is one match that I probably watched. I take that back. There is one match that I've watched numerous times, and if I'm ever giving guys like tape study,
Mm-hmm.
to do, I will sit there and watch the match with them and break it down why it's so good.
Sure.
Because it's literally a 5-minute match. It was Rey Mysterio versus The Undertaker back in 2003.
Okay.
It was like a first round WWE Championship qualifying match. And the reason why, and somebody showed this match to me and they explained why it was so good. So I'm like, oh man, everyone should know this.
Yeah.
So if you the clips on YouTube, if you watch it, it's about 7.5, 8 minutes total.
Right.
But and keep in mind, this is when Undertaker was doing the biker gimmick. So
Right.
he comes out, he rides around the ring. The entrances alone took about 2.5 minutes. So from bell to bell, this match is about 4.5 minutes, right?
Right.
What's so good about it is they're not rushing. They're not, when you tell guys you got 4 minutes TV time, they're rushing. They're trying to get all their stuff in. They're trying to, but never through the course of that match do they rush. They take their time, and it's literally Rey hits his two big things, Taker hits his big two things. Rey tries to go for the 619 finish. Taker catches him. Last ride, match is done.
Wow. Okay.
If you're paying attention to it, like it felt like a genuine, like, oh, this could have been the main event at the end of the night. But when you like look at it, they only went 4 minutes.
Right.
And that just shows how good of how excellent a pair of workers they are.
Yes.
They made it feel like a main event thing, but they only went 4 minutes TV time from bell to bell.
Right. Okay.
And you see a lot of guys want to go a mile a minute. I'm saying no. You hear the phrase, if you're going too fast, slow down.
Yeah.
I point to that one match every time and say, watch this match, watch how they move, see what they're doing. That's what we mean by slow down.
Yeah.
That's what we mean by don't rush and tell a story. And they did.
Right.
So
okay.
So that's that. That's that one match for me.
Awesome. I'll actually look into that because I don't recall the match. I was there when you mentioned Rey Mysterio. I was thinking of his match with Kurt Angle, the opening match of SummerSlam. I think it's 2005, 2004, if I'm not mistaken. That opening match was also 8 minutes, but it didn't seem like there was a rest hold in it. It was just one continuous smooth run through it, and it feels like a 10-minute match, but if you time it, I think it times out at 7:48 or something like that. Also fantastically paced match.
And again, that just speaks to the quality of worker that Kurt Angle and Rey are.
Right.
And it's when you can do that and you can rest and relax and tell a story, the matches feel so much better. Like any match where I get rushed or I end up rushing always falls apart.
Yeah.
But when it's paced, things get time to breathe, register. And again, you realize that, hey, I don't have to kill myself doing all these extra bumps and other things to tell to have a good match or tell a good story.
Right. What did you think of the talent that was on show at the Circus Show? I mean, you did watch some of the matches, so what is your overall impression of the talent that is in South Africa?
Because it just seems so limited, compared to, I guess, what it was back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know what to expect, but I had a phenomenal time with Alex. I think Matthew and Super Dragon did a good job. I can never pronounce his name. Zizzo.
Yeah, it's easy.
And his father, like him and Anansi, it was just your classic. You guys understand wrestling, mm-hmm. Like the simplicity. The simplicity of it is, you don't need a bunch of big moves. You tell a story. You get your heat. You get your pop. And I saw all that on display like with your match, it was you had I'm gonna assume he was a younger trainee or a younger guy that you're in the ring with, and you slowed him down and you made him, made his bigger stuff matter.
Yeah.
You didn't let him fly all over the ring and do everything. And you got your heat, and I'm like, oh, this is what I was hoping for. This is what I was expecting.
Okay. Okay. Right. Before I let you go, we're going to do a rapid round. Okay. I'm going to throw some names out at you, and so I'm going to throw some questions out at you. The first name that comes to mind, or the first event that comes to mind, or the first thing that comes to mind. I'm gonna give it to you, and I want the first person that comes to your mind. Okay.
All right.
Are you ready?
All right.
Right. Favorite wrestler?
Rock.
Favorite female wrestler?
Huh. Kong.
Awesome, Kong.
Yeah.
Very cool. Keir Stevens is awesome. Favorite tag team?
New Day.
Fair enough. WrestleMania or Royal Rumble?
Mania.
Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, 25 or 26. Which one was the better match?
The first one. 25.
Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock, 15, 17, 19. Which one was the best one?
I gotta say 19.
The wrestler you do not like, his style, his gimmick, you just don't get the guy, you just don't like the way he works. Who is that for you?
Don't have one.
Okay. Death matches, yes or no?
Yes.
Lucha Libre, favorite lucha wrestler?
Ray.
Best promo in the business?
In history or just right now?
In your opinion, which one's the best?
Dusty.
Paul Heyman or Bobby Heenan?
Because I grew up more with Paul.
Okay.
Than Bobby.
Wrestler you love to hate?
MJF, because I've actually met him.
Wrestlers you hate to love?
Oh. Can't think of that one.
Okay. Who dethrones Roman?
Hell, at this rate's got to be Sammy. With the way that storyline's going.
WWE, AEW.
If this was a couple of months ago, I'd have said AEW, but stuff's get. I'm trying to work for both, so I'm not going to answer that one.
Dream match, dream opponent.
One on Cody.
Which event?
That at a Mania, that would just be perfect.
Stipulation?
No, just 1-on-1. But it's got to be in my it's got to be in my home arena.
Okay. And then the last question: will you be returning to South Africa? Will you hope to return to South Africa?
It's if things work out the way I'm hoping to do, it would definitely be a possibility.
All right. And hopefully they won't keep us apart next time.
Absolutely.
Eric, listen here, I want to thank you very much for your time, man. I know that you know that the differences in the time zone and everything like that, and you are busy. I do appreciate your time, man. Thank you very much for being on Off the Top Rope.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the show. Loudmouth presents Off the Top Rope, uncensored, uncut, and walking with elephants.